Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. We are reading today Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Scheduled Incarnations, text number 24. Yasmai adāt udadhir ūḍha-bhaya aṅga-vepaḥ mārgaṁ sapady ari-puram hara-vat didhakṣoḥ dūre su-hṛt mathita-roṣa-suśoṇa-dṛṣṭyā tātapyamāna-makaroraga-nakra-cakraḥ yasmā adād udadhir ūḍha-bhayāṅga-vepo yasmā adād udadhir ūḍha-bhayāṅga-vepo mārgaṁ sapady ari-puram hara-vat didhakṣoḥ mārgaṁ sapady ari-puram hara-vat didhakṣoḥ dūre suhṛn-mathita-roṣa-suśoṇa-dṛṣṭyā dūre suhṛn-mathita-roṣa-suśoṇa-dṛṣṭyā tātapyamāna-makaroraga-nakra-cakraḥ tātapyamāna-makaroraga-nakra-cakraḥ yasmā-udadhir ūḍha-bhaya aṅga-vepo mārgaṁ sapady ari-puram hara-vat didhakṣoḥ dūre suhṛn-mathita-roṣa-suśoṇa-dṛṣṭyā tātapyamāna-makaroraga-nakra-cakraḥ. Somebody else?
Yasmā adāt udadhir ūḍha-bhayāṅga-vepo aṅga sapady ari-puram hara-vat didhakṣoḥ dūre suhṛn-mathita-roṣa-suśoṇa-dṛṣṭyā tātapyamāna-makaroraga-nakra-cakraḥ yasmā adād udadhir ūḍha-bhayāṅga-vepo mārgaṁ sapady ari-puram hara-vat didhakṣoḥ dūre suhṛn-mathita-roṣa-suśoṇa-dṛṣṭyā tātapyamāna-makaroraga-nakra-cakraḥ yasmā ūḍha-bhaya-vepo. sapady, ari-puram, didhakṣoḥ. dūre, suhṛn-mathita-roṣa-suśoṇa-dṛṣṭyā.
Yasmai, unto whom adād gave udadhir, the great Indian Ocean, ūḍha-bhaya, affected by fear, aṅga-vepaḥ, bodily trembling, mārgaṁ, way, sapady, quickly, ari-puram, the city of enemy, haravad, like that of Mahādeva, didhakṣoḥ, desiring to burn to ashes, dūre, at long distance, su-hṛt, intimate friend, mathita, being aggrieved by, roṣa, in anger, su-śoṇa, red hot, dṛṣṭyā, by such glance, tātapyamāna, burning in heat, makara, sharks, uraga, snakes, nakra, crocodiles, cakraḥ, circle. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The personality of Godhead, Ramachandra, being aggrieved for his distant, intimate friend, Sita, glanced over the city of the enemy, Ravana, with red-hot eyes, like those of Hara, who wanted to burn the kingdom of heaven. The great ocean, trembling in fear, gave him way because its family members, the aquatics, like the sharks, snakes, and crocodiles, were being burned by the heat of the angry, red-hot eyes of the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The personality of Godhead has every sentiment of a sentient being, like all other living beings, because he is the chief and original living entity, the supreme source of all other living beings. He is the Nitya, or the chief eternal amongst all other eternals. He is the chief one, and all others are dependent many. The many eternals are supported by one eternal, and thus both the eternals are quantitatively one. Due to such oneness, both the eternals constitutionally have a complete range of sentiments. But the difference is that the sentiments of the chief eternal are different in quantity from the sentiments of the dependent eternals. When Ramachandra was angry and showed his red-hot eyes, the whole ocean became heated with that energy. So much so that the aquatics within the great ocean felt the heat, and the personified ocean trembled in fear and offered the Lord an easy path to the reaching the enemy's city. The impersonalists will see havoc in this red-hot sentiment of the Lord because they want to see negation in perfection. Because the Lord is absolute, the impersonalists imagine that in the absolute the sentiment of anger, which resembles mundane sentiments, must be conspicuous by absence. Due to a poor fund of knowledge, they do not realize that the sentiment of the absolute person is transcendental to all mundane concepts of quality and quantity. Had Lord Ramachandra's sentiment been a mundane origin, how could it disturb the whole ocean and its inhabitants? Can any mundane red-hot eye generate heat in the great ocean? These are factors to be distinguished in terms of the personal and impersonal conceptions of the Absolute. As it is said in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Absolute Truth is the source of everything, so the Absolute Person cannot be devoid of the sentiments that are reflected in the temporary mundane world. Rather, the different sentiments found in the Absolute, either in anger or in mercy, have the same qualitative influence, or, in other words, there is no mundane difference of value, because the sentiments are all in the absolute plane. Such sentiments are definitely not absent in the Absolute, as the impersonalists think, making their mundane estimation of the transcendental world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yasmā udadhir ūḍha-bhayāṅga-vepo mārgaṁ sapady ari-puram hara-vat didhakṣoḥ dūre suhṛn-mathita-roṣa-suśoṇa-dṛṣṭyā tātapyamāna-makaroraga-nakra-cakraḥ. The personality of Godhead Ramachandra, being aggrieved for his distant intimate friend Sita, glanced over the city of the enemy Ravana with red-hot eyes like those of Hara, who wanted to burn the kingdom of heaven. The great ocean, trembling in fear, gave him way because its family members, the aquatics like the sharks, snakes and crocodiles, were being burned by the heat of the angry red-hot eyes of the Lord. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubheva cha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yondah pravishya mama vacham mamam prasuptam sanjeevayate kila shakti darak swadham nanyam shahasta charana shravanat vagadim pranannamo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam svasyastu vishvasya kalah prasidatam deyantu bhutani shivam vithodiyam anascha badram bhajata tadokshache aveshyatam no matirabhyahai tuki. So Srila Prabhupada explains in this wonderful purport that God is personality, and personality means sentiments, personality means emotions, personality means desires. Srila Prabhupada was pleased his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, by making an offering for his Yasa Puja, and he wrote a poem which was very much appreciated by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And the first line of this offering was, Absolute is sentient. He is sentient being, and therefore he has desires, therefore he has emotions. Therefore, he has all range of different activities which are very difficult to understand from the impersonal point of view. So these two concepts of personal and impersonal are diametrically opposite to each other. And therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami in his Tattva Sandarbha, he specifically emphasized one verse from Mahabharata, where Srila Vyasadeva says, Itihasam Puramabhyam Vedas Sam Upabrimhayet. The Vedas are not complete in themselves. The Vedas don't give the complete conception or the complete understanding of the absolute truths. This is a shocking news for all us followers of Vedic culture. But Vedavyas knows better. He knows what is Vedas and what do they give, what they can give and what they do not give. So Srila Jiva Goswami explaining this verse, he says that Vedas are being completed by Itihasas and Puranas. Why? What is the completion? What is the completeness? What is the contribution of Itihasas and Puranas into the Vedic conception? The contribution is that Supreme Personality of Godhead is a person. Absolute truth is a person, which you will not be able to understand if you study Upanishads and Vedas. You will be completely bewildered by Upanishads and Vedas, and ultimately you will come to an impersonal conclusion. But when you study Puranas, it will be very clear that Supreme Personality of Godhead has red-hot eyes. The absolute truth in an impersonal conception cannot have red-hot eyes. He cannot have eyes at all, because eyes means roop, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead can have eyes, no problem for him, many eyes, and he can have red-hot eyes. And it means that he can have the sentiments, it means that he can have desires, it means that he can have emotions, and he basically can have everything else. And here Srila Prabhupada explains that there is a slight difference between us and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can boil the whole ocean by his red-hot glance. We cannot boil even a glass of tea if we want. You know, we can be as angry as we want, and we try to stare at the glass of water, there will be no effect on the water. So, but basically there is another very important difference which we have to understand, that the motivation for these sentiments, for these emotions are also quite different between us limited living entities living in this world and the Supreme Lord. Why the Supreme Lord became so angry? We have to understand, while trying to understand the emotions which are being described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to try to understand the motivations behind these emotions. Why our emotions are contaminating? Why impersonalists try to deprive the absolute truth of his emotions? Because they know that the human emotions is the manifestation of our incompleteness. We manifest anger because we want something, because we miss something. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his anger is motivated by love. Our emotions, including calm, lust, anger, greed, and all other emotions, the complete range of emotions which we experience, are motivated by our incompleteness. And incompleteness creates envy. I'm incomplete, and if I see somebody is enjoying something which I cannot enjoy, it creates some bad feeling in my heart. And this bad feeling is completely opposite of the love. And my emotions are ultimately driven by envy. But when we see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when we hear His pastimes, we have to understand what is the basis of His emotions. The basis of His emotions is love. He feels so much love to Mother Sita, who is in Lanka, and he is standing there just in front of Lanka, and here is this ocean, and he is thinking that he is all supreme, and he is, you know, he is deciding the way what to do, what not to do, and in this way Lord Ramachandra manifests his anger, which is based on his extreme love and attachment. And again, his love and attachment is not because of something is lacking in him. His love and attachment is only because he is full in himself, and his fullness of his heart manifests as the love. Not the lust which we manifest because something is lacking within our heart. So that's the teaching which Lord Ramachandra and Lord Krishna are giving by coming here as persons and manifesting this. And we have to really understand their teachings. But there is a great difference between Lord Krishna and Lord Ramachandra. They both want to teach us how to love. They both want to bring us to this completely elevated and wonderful state of self-abnegation, when we don't remember about ourselves, when we are ready to sacrifice anything for the pleasure of somebody whom we love, for the pleasure of God, when we completely forget about ourselves, about our petty interests, about our ideas and desires and everything, we just want to please Him. So that's a very elevated stage, and definitely Krishna, Lord Krishna brought this message to us, which is the core message of Srimad Bhagavatam. But before Lord Krishna came, Lord Ramachandra came. And he is also teaching the same thing. Different avatars, when they come to this material world, they don't teach different things. Their message, their mission is one, to teach us how to love, how to get rid of this contamination within the heart, which forces us to act selfishly. That's the greatest contamination, the greatest dirt within our heart. So both Ramachandra and Krishna teach us, but they teach differently. Lord Ramachandra says that before you will be able to experience love, you have to get rid of your capricious nature, of your nature which forces you to fulfill your desires. And therefore he is Maryada Purushottama. He says, discipline. You want elevated love, no problem. That's a very noble and worthy aspiration. But before, you have to be disciplined. Before, you have to follow the rules and regulations. And therefore, also, in the path of Krishna consciousness, first is Vaidhi Bhakti. Sometimes our acharyas, they distinguish between the path of Vaidhi Bhakti and the path of Raganuga Bhakti. Yes, Raganuga is the goal, but before we reach Raganuga, we have to purify our heart, our consciousness. We have to broaden our consciousness by strictly following the discipline. In Ramayana, there is a beautiful story. There are two beautiful stories which I want to describe in connection with one episode of Ramayana, which actually teaches us what does it mean love in the understanding of Lord Ramachandra. He does want us to give this impression of love, how beautiful love is. The Lord himself forgets himself. He forgets that he is the Lord. When Lord Ramachandra is wandering in the forest and completely in tears, he forgets, because love gives him such a pleasure within the heart that to experience this love, he forgets that he is the Lord. You know, that's why he had Lakshman next to him. Lakshman, his main service was to remind, you're the Lord, don't worry. That was again and again during Ramayana. There is some lilies happening, and Lord Ramachandra becomes emotional, and Lakshman behind his back saying, don't be so emotional. You're the Supreme Personality of God. We will solve this problem. So don't worry too much. But in any case, when Lord Ramachandra is wandering in the forest, he does not want to remember that he is God. He does not want to remember that he is God, because this remembrance will be a hindrance for his love. He wants to forget that he is the Lord. He wants to just love Sita Devi. And that's the proof that love is the highest, because even God forgets about his position of God for the sake of love. So that's the teaching of Ramayana as well, and that's the teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna's life. But Krishna's life from the very beginning is very spontaneous, and ultimately that's what we should learn: how to achieve love by serving somebody who has this spontaneous love. The way of us acquiring love is the way of service to somebody who has love. If somebody has love and we serve him, like Gopal Krishna Maharaj, he has such an intense love to Srila Prabhupada. The extent of his love and attachment to Srila Prabhupada is difficult to explain. But if we serve him, the reflection of his love will be reflected in our heart. And his love will come to our heart. But before we will be able to serve in a proper way, we have to discipline ourselves. Before we will be able to serve completely selflessly, we have to experience the pleasure of service by following the rules and regulations. And therefore, Maryada Puruṣottama-ram, he comes first, and then he teaches us how to follow Maryada, how to get rid of our capricious or lusty nature. Because we have this lust, before we somehow or other get our lust under control, we will not be able even to appreciate the notion of service. We will not be able even to appreciate how beautiful it is to serve somebody selflessly and then, as a result, experience these elevated feelings of love. So, these two little stories which I want to describe in this class. When Lord Ramachandra, Lakshman and Sita Devi, they were wandering in the forest, at one point they came to the forest of Dandakaranya. And when they came to the forest of Dandakaranya, they were terrified by the very glance of this forest. The forest was really horrible. There were so many dry trees, and hardly anyone was inhabiting this forest. So Lord Ramachandra asked, what is the story of this forest? Why this forest is so deserted? Why nobody wants to live in this forest? Why this forest is so ferocious? And the story was told about Dandaka, who had a very elevated background. Dandaka, on his name, the forest was called, was the son of Ikshvaku, and Ikshvaku was the son of Manu Maharaj. Manu Maharaj had his great kingdom, and he had his son Ikshvaku, and Ikshvaku had 100 sons. And Lord Ramachandra himself, he is from Ikshvaku's dynasty. But the youngest of these 100 sons of Ikshvaku Maharaj was Dandaka. Danda. His name was Danda. And his Danda was very undisciplined. He didn't want to follow the discipline. He didn't obey his superiors. He didn't like his elder brothers. Like in Mahabharata, we can see the ideal example of Pandavas who are all obedient to Yudhishthir Maharaj. You know, this is the beginning of discipline. The beginning of discipline is irrevocable respect to the superiors. If somebody who is superior to me says something, I don't really, discuss his orders. He said it, I do it. We can see, like Lord Ramachandra himself, his father told him, you should go to forest. And he said, yes, my father, no problem. In Valmiki Ramayana, it is said that not even one muscle moved when he heard this order of Dasharatha Maharaj. He was supposed to be crowned as a king. He comes to have a good news that he is going to be crowned today. Dasharatha Maharaj looks at him. He can't even pronounce this. And Kaikeyi says, yeah, he's not so well this morning by some reason. So I will tell you what he wants you to say. And Kaikeyi says these cruel words. And it is said in Valmiki Ramayana that at that time Ramachandra, he gloomed. He became happy by hearing this order. He says, oh, this is a difficult order. By following this order, I will show that I'm sincere, that I will follow this discipline. So what happened in this particular case of Dandaka, of Danda, and the son of Ikshvaku Maharaj, he was very undisciplined, and therefore he was expelled from the kingdom of Ikshvaku Maharaj. And he came to this place and he established his kingdom in this place, and there was a beautiful capital in this kingdom, and he had his guru, Shukracharya. Of course, who else would be guru of such a person? And it's a very risky business to become a guru of such a person. Because if such a person becomes your disciple, you are in trouble. Because he is not going to follow your orders. He is only disciple in name, because the Vedic culture so strongly emphasizes the need of guru, so this Dandaka, for the name's sake, he accepted guru as Shukracharya, and he went to the forest hunting. And while hunting, he came to the ashram of Shukracharya. And before entering the ashram of Shukracharya, he saw the beautiful daughter of Shukracharya, Araja. And when he saw this beautiful daughter of Shukracharya, he didn't even think twice. He just wanted to fulfill his lusty desires. And he raped her. And as a result of this rape, this violent rape which he did with this beautiful girl, Shukracharya cursed Dandaka and cursed this whole forest. So that's a very important lesson for all of us, a very important lesson of the whole Ramayana. The calm lust is the curse upon us. And the calm lust makes our heart deserted of all elevated feelings. Our heart is like this Dandaka forest, which is horrible. If we want to invite the elevated feelings of love, which are very subtle and very important for us to be happy, we first have to get rid of this lust, because otherwise the love will not enter into our heart, which is deserted. Nothing will be able to live within our heart, which is full of lust. We will only try to fulfill our selfish desires, and ultimately we will be deserted. Ultimately we will be lonely. That's the very important lesson of Ramayana. And while wandering in Ramayana, I have to finish now. Shall I? 2 more minutes, 3 more minutes? Because it's connected with this. While they were wandering in the forest, these 2 stories, they are connected in a poetic way between each other. Because ultimately that's what Ramachandra wants to teach us in all his leelas. how to achieve love by first following very strict discipline. So while wandering in this Dandaka forest, they met a ferocious demon. And this ferocious demon, very lusty demon. You know, only the ferocious demons can inhabit Dandaka forest. Because it's cursed. You know, and we are being cursed by our nature, by the predominance of calm within our heart. So this demon was there, and he started laughing when he saw Ram and Lakshman, and he said, "Oh, I see you are ascetics. You are living in this forest. You're wearing the bark of the trees, and you have a beautiful woman with you. Oh, really nice, very nice. So I will punish you guys. I will grab this beautiful woman, and she will become my wife." You know, and he was huge. He was like, you know, really big. And he said, "Don't worry, I will size myself down to make you my wife." So anyway, he grabbed Sita, and in this moment, and his name was Virada. It's a very interesting, from this etymology of this name, Virada means devoid of love. Radha means love. Radha means unreserved service. Radha means the desire to serve and to give everything up for the sake of somebody whom I love. She is the best worshipper. And he is Virada. He is somebody who doesn't have any love. Vigata Radha iti Virada. So he is Virada. And therefore, you know, he is there. And he's showing by this story that, you know, he just wants to grab somebody. He wants to grab, you know, other's wife and enjoy other's wife. And he says, you go from here. I will forgive you. And Lord Ramachandra became very emotional again in this story. He says, Lakshman, what happened to us? Yeah. Now Kaikeyi will be really happy. The purpose of her sending us to this exile will be fulfilled today, because this ferocious demon will eat Sita Devi and will eat us. And he became, and Lakshman from the back said, don't worry, you are the Supreme Personality of God. and this Virada said, I'm inconquerable. Nobody can kill me because I have a boon from Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma told me that I cannot be killed by any weapon. So, and Lakshman says, no problem, we will deal with this. Don't worry. So, anyway, so the story goes that, you know, they started shooting arrows at this Virada demon, because they want to kill. They want to kill lust within our heart. And that's why they are killing these demons. By killing these demons, they are killing lust within our heart. And Virada, he understood that something is serious going on, so he let Sita go, and then he grabbed Ram and Lakshman. He grabbed Ram in his right hand, and he grabbed Lakshman in his left hand. And, you know, he's holding them, and he's huge, and they're relatively small. He's holding them in his hands, and Sita started crying. And Sita said, oh, please, let them go, don't do anything for them. They're showing, you know, when Ramachandra saw that Sita is in trouble, he was ready to sacrifice himself. When Sita saw that Lord Ram is in trouble, she started pleading to this demon. Please let him go, let him go. Let him go, take me. Do whatever you like with me, but let him go. So that's love. And as opposed to this, there is this Virada demon who is grabbing Lord Ram, and Lakshman is really angry. You know, Lakshman is, Lord Ramachandra was angry in this episode of Ramayana, but Lakshman was always angry. That was his bhav, his mood, because he wanted to protect Lord Ram. So his predominant mood was anger. So he became so angry. He said, "You cut his right hand and I will cut his left hand." And Lord Ram started cutting his right hand, and it took him a long time to cut his right hand. You know, he was working hard, and Lakshman cut his left hand, and ultimately this demon, he's still alive because he could not be killed by any weapon. And he's asking, "Who are you?" And Ram says, "I am Ram, the son of Dasharatha. And this is my brother Lakshman, and this is Sita." And in this moment, this Virada started crying. And he said, "Oh, finally you came. Okay, I will teach you how to kill me. Finally you came because you want to give me love. Finally you came to my life because you want to give me love. You want to destroy my wicked nature." And while crying, he said, "You just bury me alive. You just put me in the ground. I cannot be killed by any weapon, but I can be killed if you put me into ground, no problem. Just do it." And he gave some prediction, and so on and so forth. So they put him into the ground, and from the ground, the beautiful Gandharva Tumburu appeared and said, "Thank you very much for helping me to get rid of my Rakshasic nature." So that's why we're celebrating Lord Ram. He has come to our life to help us to get rid of our Rakshasa nature, of our lust and anger, and to achieve real love, which will be the main driving force of our life. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.